As a parent with OCD, before I take my daughter to a playground, I don't just think about the swings, the shade, or the people, including the crowd. I think about the things that most people probably never consider, like artificial EMFs and how they affect my OCD. And it might be something you need to think about. Think about anything that uses electricity or AC or alternating current and wireless technology if you're not 100% familiar with EMF. Now, if you live with OCD, you already know how sensitive your system can become mentally, emotionally, and even physically. And sometimes it's not just the thoughts or the rituals, it can be the environment. Now, the invisible stresses that amplify everything, and for those of us with OCD, it could literally mean the difference between a good and a bad day with OCD, or at least that's how it feels for me. See, EMF exposure levels for me can push my nervous system into an absolute overdrive, and that makes managing OCD that much harder and honestly near impossible if I'm exposed to certain levels that are high enough. So I've learned to plan ahead, to create a safer space for not just my daughter, but for myself as well. To the point now, I'm literally living out of my caravan on a 20-acre property, literally away from as much artificial EMF as I can, and using as much DC or direct current power as I can. More about that in later videos. Now in this video, I just show you the extent I go to manage artificial EMFs I'm surrounded by, and as a result, my OCD is better and I'm able to show up that much better for the people that I love, especially my daughter. Now, this isn't about living in fear, honestly, it's about living with awareness. Especially when your nervous system is already hitting the limiter. Sometimes the smallest things can keep the loop going. And that also means the smallest adjustments can start to break that loop as well. So let's take a look at one of my favorite playgrounds I like to visit with my daughter and what I consider when choosing a playground, especially regarding EMF. Alrighty, what is the EMF like at a playground where I'm taking my daughter right now? But a playground like this one, okay? This is a very unique playground that I absolutely love. Yeah, babe. This is one of my favorite playgrounds. You could probably have guessed why. It's not only one of the biggest playgrounds, some of the newest equipment that's so cool for all things kids and even adults. I like playing on it as well. But as you could probably guess, it is low in EMF. I mean, look at the place. It's practically like a playground in the forest. And I haven't actually taken a reading with any of my meters. So right here I've got the NFA 1000 for electric fields, magnetic fields. I don't have the gear with me for body skin voltage, but I do have also the Safe and Sound Pro 2. Now, what's going to baffle me is if the levels are high, okay? I mean, it's not only a peaceful playground, being around trees, nice oxygen, but this is going to baffle me if the levels are high. I'm guessing they're going to be practically zero, all right? So it's so close to maybe even better than the farm in Macclesfield where I'm living right now. Alright, so I'll be super surprised. Let's do a reading. Mind you, so we'll start with, it's all flickery. That's alright. So right here where I'm standing, I'll take multiple readings around the park, but right now it's holding a very, very consistent 3 or 4 microwatts per square meter, and whether or not that's going to change with different or amounts of people coming to the park. I've been here on very busy days and the vibe is very different. Do I hate people? I'm not actually too sure. Could it be the EMF coming from their phones, which are essentially mini cell towers in people's pockets? Yeah, babe, could be that. I feel a little more edgy when there's a lot of people, so right now it's so calm. I think with less people in general, it's calm, but and you got wildlife like this, if you can see the cockroach there. Hey bud. Alrighty, so mind you, magnetic field's going to be accurate because we don't need any grounding. I don't have my grounding cable for the unit at the moment, and to be expected, 0. So magnetic field's completely 0. It's practically 0. And if I did have a grounding cable with me, I could just about guarantee you it would be 0. So I think that makes it a pretty chill playground. Not because it is a awesome playground in general, but for the sake of EMF, I think makes it one of the best. So this is at the other end of the park now. So I'll give you like a bit of a full spectrum reading. It's not going to be a proper reading, but just so you can see if there's anything on this side of the park that could be a little different. Let's start off with the radio frequencies. It is actually a little bit different. So before, at one end of the park, it was at about 3. There are a few more people at the park, so I don't know if that's making a difference, but we actually could be a little closer to a tower that I'm actually not sure where it is, if it is a tower, but we're sitting at a pretty consistent 10 to 20 microwatts per square meter. Relatively speaking, it's still like nothing. Magnetic field, still 0. And electric field, pretty much right where I'm standing though, 0. Look at that view. Okay, so you go to a playground at the moment and you really want to make sure that it is as low EMF as possible. What do you do, especially if you don't have any fancy meters and you're not looking to buy any at the moment? Look, that's totally fine and I understand. Now, proximity is going to be your best friend, or in other words, range or distance. Now, a good rule of thumb is, can you see anything that could be contributing to EMF? Now, think about the sources: power lines, cell towers, and unfortunately, due to how powerful phones are these days, yes, people. So, are there a lot of people? Because they're carrying mini cell towers. Can you see any cell towers from the park? Can you see any power lines? Now, what happens if you can? Unfortunately, in the case of cell towers, I think that's going to be, the biggest deterrent for me. If I can see a cell tower from the park, I don't want to go there. Power lines are a little bit of a different story. I at least want about 100 to 200 feet of distance between where we will be and the power lines themselves. All right, so the closest part of the power lines. Now, that's not also to say that if you can see power lines, it's always going to be high in EMF. You could potentially be in a part of the day where there's not a lot of pull on the electrical grid. Less pull on the electrical grid means there's less magnetic fields and hence low EMF, or less EMF, let's say. Other things could be anything that uses electricity, high-powered lights, any appliances, which is very rare to come by, and even still in a public place, it's most likely going to be commercial grade, and usually, fortunately, a lot of the time, commercial buildings, commercial grade type infrastructure, grounded to the best of the ability, maybe due to public liability, I'm not entirely sure. But I've always found when it comes to EMF, it's pretty good. So definitely distance. Now, does this mean that if you're close to a cell tower, you can see it? If there is some power lines, because I've definitely seen some doozies of playgrounds. For example, didn't even go to it because it was just a clear no-no with my EMF lens, so to speak, on the world. As soon as I saw it, I just put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, definitely not. There was a cell tower within 100 meters and it was practically underneath power lines. Not underneath, but like you could probably stand underneath power lines, walk 10 meters and you're at the playground. For me, regardless of even the levels, I mean, yeah, if the power lines weren't working, maybe then, but I really doubt it. So that was just a no-go for me. Now, does it even make that much of a difference? I don't know where you are with your EMF journey. Maybe just getting into things, thinking like, do EMFs even harm us at all? Does it cause any influence on our biology? If you've been following along with my journey, then you know that I've gone as far as looking for a property to live out of a caravan that is extremely low EMF. If you're not up to date, well, that's what I'm doing right now. That's the extent that I go to as a hypersensitive individual when it comes to EMF. And so yes, it does make an enormous difference for me. Now, even if I am hypersensitive and everyone else is just, a little bit sensitive, honestly, the analogy I like to use is it is stress on the system. All right, to how much stress on each person will vary, but it is, I believe, stress nonetheless, and stress that we could be without. And if you could literally choose a different park and it doesn't make that much of a difference, maybe it's like, an extra 5-minute drive. The thing with parks, I think that it is a really cool place to be. It's fun for the kids. It's probably a time when you're not working. Maybe you are, I'm not sure. But for the most part, it's pretty relaxing, or at least it should be. And I really think that times like this can be a great disguise
or mask on how you're actually feeling. For example, if you're in a high EMF environment at work, I mean, that in of itself can be a disguise as well. You might actually associate the stress to just work. And look, there are so many different variables when it does come to work. Work can be stressful, work can be fulfilling. But in a playground setting, it can be so easy to mask it as something else or just blame something else. Now, honestly, the way that I see it is the way that EMF affects me. It completely alters my state, my mood, my energy, my focus. Honestly, it means the difference between playing an extra half an hour. Honestly, we were at this playground for 3 hours and I was running around the whole time. And the difference to go to a place that is near, even just near EMF, I get in, I'm not as like bubbly, I'm not as playful with my daughter, and I probably don't want to be there for as long. All right, so half an hour could go by and I'm over it. If you have kids, you just know that for the most part, if they're in good health, they just keep going and going and going. And for them, that could be the difference between did we go to the park, or we spent the whole day at the park, even if it was just 3 hours and it wasn't the actual whole day. But yes, 3 hours could be a long time for the park, but when you're in an optimal state with a great mood and fantastic energy that I believe that a low EMF environment can provide, then yeah, you could be one of the greatest parents because you're able to keep up with your kids and stay in an amazing state at the same time. This is all obviously without guarantee, but yeah, I just really think that in my life it makes that much of a difference.